So today we'll be talking about angiotensin receptor blockers. So these examples are losartan, telmisartan, olmesartan. These are the various examples. These are the newer drugs similar to your AC inhibitors, plus they prevent the aldosterone release. So they act on your renin-angiotensin system. The difference between AC inhibitors and your AT2 receptor blockers are they block your angiotensin 1 receptor found in your many tissues, and once the receptor are blocked, this causes your vasodilation and decreases your peripheral resistance. So this is how your drug acts. Okay. So now let's go into the structure of the compound. Let's go for the structure of the compounds. Let's go for the structure. If you see in the example over here, you can take losartan as your structure. So what are the basic things it contains in the losartan structure? See, don't get confused. These are the sites for the binding. What are amino acids that are shown? They are nothing but they are amino acids which are present in your receptor and the particular site. So if you see in the imidazole, so it contains basically, and if you see the structure of imidazole, so it contains an imidazole ring. That is the first thing that you have to consider. Okay, it contains an imidazole structure. So this binds to your helix file in your receptor. So this particular, and the imidazole contains, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in case of this, the first thing that you have to consider is your imidazole, which is necessary for your. So it contains a chloro at the 4th position and an methanolic group alcohol at the 5th position of your imidazole. So this is your imidazole structure. This is the structure of your. Now at the 2nd position, it is connected to your alkyl group. So how many alkyl? What is alkyl group? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is connected to your butyl. Okay. So your 1st position and 3rd nitrogen of your imidazole. 2nd position contains your alkyl group, that is your butyl. 4th position contains chloro and a methanolic group at the 5th position. Okay, of your imidazole. Now this nitrogen is connected to a methylic biphenyl compound. It is connected to a methyl biphenyl. Okay, it is connected to an biphenyl. Okay, one. It is connected to a biphenyl methyl group. It is connected to a biphenyl methyl group. Okay, it is connected to a biphenyl methyl group. And at the ortho position of that, it contains a, see if you see, 1, 2, tetrazole malt. It contains a tetrazole malt. And it contains a tetrazole. So this is your structure of your losartan. So see what all things you have to remember in this thing. Okay. So when I will be explaining, just look at the structure. So this is your losartan. So it contains a tetrazole ring. It contains an imidazole containing an alkyl group at 2nd, chloro at the 4th, and a methanolic group at the 5th. Okay. These are all the sites which are necessary. The tetrazone is successfully replaced by carboxylic acid. So in case of losartan, there is a tetrazole. It is a tetrazole which is attached to your biphenylic group. Okay, which is connected to a methylene group to your imidazole. So this is the basic structure of your. This is the basic structure of your imidazole. This is the basic structure of your losartan. Okay. So you see a biphenylic which is connected to a tetrazole, which is connected by a methylene group, your imidazole. which contains an chloro at the fifth and the fifth. So these are the basic initial substitution which was found to be necessary for your active. Now that was losartan. Now if you try to replace, your, in case of your telmisartan, what do you see? Your first thing that you see is your tetrazole is replaced by your carboxylic acid, yeah, and your and your and your imidazole is replaced by your benzimidazole moiety. Your imidazole is replaced by your benzimidazole moiety. So it is replaced by your benzimidazole moiety. It is replaced by your benzimidazole moiety, which contains another and methylated imidazole. It contains another and methylated imidazole. It is and over here it contains an alcoholic group, and it contains an alcoholic group. Okay. In case of losartan, it was methyl alcohol. In case of your telmisartan, it is an ethanolic alcohol. So what are the difference between losartan and telmisartan? So your triazole is replaced by a carboxylic group, and your imidazole is replaced by a dibenzimidazole group, which contains an ethanol group and a N-methyl imidazole. So this is your structure of your telmisartan. This is the structure of your telmisartan. This is the structure of your telmisartan. First is carboxylic acid. Instead of your methyl alcohol, it is an ethanolic. It is an it is an ethyl group over here. Okay, there is an propyl group. No, so this is the structure of your telmisartan. Now let's go for the next structure. Let's go for the next structure. So next structure is what all things, if you can see, most that is a telmisartan that I'm trying to explain. So your acid group can be replaced by your NH2 sulfonyl group CF3 group at the position 1 of your biphenylic methylene group. So such things can be substituted. Okay. In case of telmisartan, you got an benzimidazole substitution with an alkyl substitution at the second position. Okay, same alkyl substitution at the, and it contains an methylated benzimidazole connected to the 2. So it is a 2 bibenzimidazole substituted. Now let's go for valsartan. So what do you see the difference between valsartan and losartan? So you got everything same, biphenylic tetrazole, but only thing your imidazole ring is replaced by an acylated. You can see the imidazole ring. Your imidazole ring is replaced by an acylated amino acid. Okay, so let's draw the structure. So first I'll draw a biphenylic group. So whenever it contains an tetrazole moiety, okay, this is connected by CS2. Now instead of your, if you see on the right, if you see on the left hand side, it's a losartan. On the right hand side, it is valsartan. So instead of your imidazole, it contains an acylated. So this is your amino acid. It contains an acylated amino acid. So this is an amino acid over here. So it is an amino acid. So this is your particular amino acid using this part. If you can see over here, I'll just draw it in a different color so that you can understand. Okay. So This thing is an amino acid. COOH, and this is your amino acid which is acylated. What is acylated? It forms an acyl. And what is that acid? It's a butyric acid. CH2, CH2, CH2. So it's a butyric acid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and an amino acid. So your imidazole is replaced by an acylated amino acid. So this is the structure of your valsartan. This is the structural difference between valsartan and so we have tried to keep the two structures next to each other so that you understand the difference in the structure. You can see in the structure of your valsartan, it contains an acylated, that is your pentanoic acid, which is acylated with your leucine amino acid. Okay, so this is the structural difference between your losartan and your valsartan. This is the structural difference between your losartan and your valsartan. And it was found that in this, so it was found that your Cl and your CS2 was not necessary for your activity. It was found that Cl and your methanolic group is not much necessary for your activity. Now let's go for the next structure. Let's go for the next structure. So next structure is irbestratin. So next structure is your irbestratin. So irbestratin, if you see, it is an spiro containing spiroimidazole derivative. It is an spiroimidazole derivative. All the structures are same over here, just a little bit of difference. So everything is same. It is an spiroimidazole derivative. Nitrogen. It's nitrogen over here. So this is your imidazole moiety. Okay. It's an imidazole moiety. So if you see over here, there is an carbonyl at the 5th position and 4th position. It contains an spiro. It forms a spiro biphenolic 5-membered. 3rd position, 2nd position, again it is connected to your butane. Okay, so this is the structure of your irbestratin. Okay, this is the structure of your. Now let's go for the structure of your olmesartan. Now let's go for the structure of your olmesartan. So what is the difference over here? If you see, what is the difference? Here, your same thing. Your your alkyl group, everything. Only thing is that an imidazole. Okay. The only difference that you see is that instead of your chloro, if you see over here, I'll just show you the structure. So instead of your chloro, there is an 1, 2, 3. So it's an isopropanol. Instead of your chloro over here, there is an isopropanol. And instead of your methanolic group, that is alcoholic group, there is an carboxylic acid group. There is an carboxylic acid group. So this is your structural difference between your losartan and olmesartan. So what do you see over here? So it has been reported that imidazole that have hydroxymethyl and a carbonyl group at 4 and 5 possessed potent antagonist activity caused by hydrogen bonding and hydrophilicity of your methyl. It was reported that hydroxy group in the 4th position on the imidazole plays an important role for the binding and compensated for the disadvantage of your lipophilicity of the bulky alkyl group. So if it was found that your OH favored the substitute antagonist activity. So this was the difference between your olzartan and your losartan, olmesartan and your losartan. So these are the structures of the structures. So one by one I'll be writing the structures. So please look at the structure. So first I'll be starting with your losartan. So first what I'll be drawing, it is an biphenolic compound containing a tetrazole moiety. Look at the structures. Okay, this is common, this is connected CH2. Okay, this is connected to an imidazole ring. Yep, this is connected to an imidazole ring. At the second position, there is an 1, 2, 3 butyl group. Fourth position, there is a chloro, and the fifth position, there is a. So this is your losartan. Okay, this is your losartan. Now let's go for the next structure. Which contains your. Let's go for the next structure, that is your valsartan. That's your valsartan. So what is the difference between valsartan and losartan? Your this amino group. Okay, your imidazole ring is broken. Instead of your imidazole ring, there is an an acylated, that is an acylated amino acid. So this is your amino acid, this part is your amino, and this is your acid. So that is the difference between your losartan and in case of olmesartan. If you draw the entire structure again, you draw a biphenolic, okay, containing an tetrazole CH2 linker. Now you have to see the difference. So in case of olzartan, what do you have? You draw an imidazole ring. Okay, you draw an imidazole ring. Same thing over here, alkyl substitution. Okay, you got an alkyl over here. Instead of your chlorine that is present in the losartan, it got an tertiary alcohol and a carboxylic acid. So this is your olmesartan. This is your olmesartan. In case of irbestatin, everything is same. Only thing is that at the fifth position there is an carbonyl group, and over here it contains a five-membered spiro ring. It contains a spiro ring. So this is different groups which are present. And in case of, now let's go for the another example where your tetrazole is changed with an acidic group, carboxylic acid. So here in case of telmisartan, your tetrazole is replaced by your carboxylic acid. That is the first thing that you have to see. And the next thing, look at this properly. Okay. Look at this properly. This structure of telmes. So usually what do you have? Usually I said it contains an imidazole. But in case of telmisartan, your imidazole is replaced by your benzimidazole. Is replaced by your benzene second position again connected by this same thing as that of your other. It is a methyl, and again it is connected to another. It is connected to another methylated. So this is your structure of your telmisartan. This is the structure of your telmisartan. This is the structure of your telmisartan. So these many examples are enough for you. Okay, if you remember these many examples for the exam. Okay. Let's go for the next class of that are diuretics. And as we have explained in the diuretics, when you are learning, so diuretics are also used as antihypertensive because they try to control your blood volume. So they try to reduce your blood volume, and thus they will reduce your BP. They'll reduce your BP. Some of the examples are thiazide type diuretics like your hydrochlorothiazide, chlorothiazide, and trichlormethiazide. Potassium sparing diuretics like a spironolactone, aminoride, triamcitrine, and loop diuretics like furosemide, ithacrinic acid, and torsemide. Some of the examples. So these are the examples of the diuretics which are used. So how do they act? So thiazide diuretic, they reduce your sodium and water retention, they reduce your blood volume, reduce your cardiac output, and decrease. They also decrease your peripheral resistance. They also decrease your peripheral resistance. Examples are chlorothiazide and hydrochlorothiazide derivative. Chlorothiazide and hydrochlorothiazide derivative. Structure is nothing but it is an quinoxylene ring. It is an quin, example of sulfonated quinoxylene ring. So you can just write the structure of this compound. Nitrogen, SO2, H, double bond, chlorine at the second position, SO2, and then SO2 and S. This is the structure of chlorothiazide. Hydrochlorothiazide does not contain an, and in case of benzthiazide, it contains an CH2, that is benzchlorothiazide. Okay. This is the examples of your diuretics. This is the example of your diuretics. Next are potassium sparing ions. They are present in your distal convoluting triples. The examples are spironolactone. They are nothing but synthetic steroids which antagonizes your aldosterone at the intracellular cytoplasmic receptor. So they, instead of your aldosterone getting binded to your cell membrane, this gets blocked. So they block your and activation of your aldosterone, and thus reduce your water and reduce your sodium reabsorption and act as diuretics. Next examples are triamcitrine and amiloride. Triamcitrine and amiloride. They block your sodium potassium channels. They decrease the sodium potassium channel exchange which is present in your distal convoluting tubes, which are present in your distal convoluting tube. They inhibit your sodium excretion, and also does it also prevents your potassium being excreted, because what happens, in this particular exchange, the sodium goes back and your potassium is excreted. That's why they are known as potassium sparing and sparing direct. Examples are trimipene and your amiloride. So let's see the structure of your potassium spare. That is your amiloride. I'll go for amiloride first, followed by trimipene. Okay. So whenever you draw the structure of your amiloride. So first you have to draw is what? Your period. You should draw pyrazine moiety. You should draw pyrazine moiety with amino at 2 and 4 position. Okay, at 2 and 4 position in case of amiloride. Okay, at 2 and 4 position. Okay, this is the first thing that you have to. Then chlorine. Over here, 5th position contains an bromide and a guanidine linkage and a guanidine carbonyl attached to a guanidine. So this is the structure of your amiloride. Okay, this is the structure of your amiloride. So first thing what you have to remember is a pyrazine moiety. It is a pyrazine. Next thing it is a diamino pyrazine. Okay, next thing is diamino, that is at the 2nd and the 6th position there is an amino. At the 3rd position there is an chlorine, and at the 5th position it contains an guanidine linkage which is attached to a carbonyl group, So this is the structure of amino. Now let's go for the structure of your triamine. Okay, let's go for the structure of your triamine. So now look at the structure properly. Over here also, first thing, draw a pyrazine moiety. Okay. Now this is fused to what? This is fused to a pyrimidine. So if you just draw a structure, if you find it difficult to remember the bonds, just draw this. So it is fused to your pyrazine. Is fused to your pyrimidine. Okay, it's fused to your pyrimidine. So, and it contains 1, 2, 3 amino groups. It contains 3 amino groups. Okay, and okay. So this is the structure of your amino group. So let's start by the naming. Give it as a pyrazino pyrimidine type of derivative, which contains. So this is your basic ring. So if you start the numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So at 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. At 2, 4, and 8, there is amino group. Remember, and at 7th position, there is an phenyl group. So this is the structure of your triniptylene. Triamine. Okay, it is triamino substituted. It's a triamino substituted. And last is the structure of your spirulina. So it is an example of steroid molecule. So it contains an steroid. So basically it contains an steroid. So whenever you draw a steroid, draw an phenanthrene ring. So this is the basic structure here. Okay. Now there is a carbonyl, and so this is your basic. Over here, this is A, B, C, D. The C ring contains, the D ring contains a lactate. lactone. So lactone, that is a cyclic ester. 5-membered cyclic ester. So your D ring contains your cyclic ester, and your B ring contains an thioacetate group. It contains a thioacetate. It contains a thioacetate group. So this is your structure of your spiro. All the structures are important. They come in exam for 2 marks. They come in your exam for 2 marks. Okay. So please read this structure. That's why I've explained each and every structures again. Please remember the structures properly. They are asked in your exams frequently. Okay. Other examples I have not mentioned over here by mistake. It is furosemide. It is your loop diuretic. That is your furosemide. They are also used as an, they act on your ascending limb. That is loop of Henle. They act on your sodium potassium chloride syntroners which are present, which helps in your which prevents your sodium retention and thus leads to your excretion of your more sodium and water. Okay, so this is of your loop diuretics. So the next class of drugs are ganglionic block. Next class of drugs are ganglionic block. So this ganglionic block is a type of medicine that inhibits the transmission between your preganglionic and postganglionic neurons in your autonomic nervous system. So this medication inhibits the transmission of your between your preganglionic and postganglionic. So they prevent the transfer of your neurotransmitter between your preganglionic and postganglionic by acting on the as a nicotinic receptor antagonist. They act on the receptors, nicotinic receptor, which are present in your ganglions. This reduces your, so what happens when this gets attached to your nicotinic receptor? They reduce the sympathetic outflow to the heart. So they inhibit the release of your norepinephrine and epinephrine from your central nervous system to the heart. Okay, thereby decreasing your cardiac output and your cardiac heart rate and contractility. This is how they act, because this sympathetic system are responsible for your cardiac output as well as your contractility or as well as your heart rate. So thus they control the blood. It this reduced sympathetic outflow to the vascular decreases your sympathetic vascular tone, which causes your vasodilation and reduces your systemic vascular resistance and decreases your arterial pressure. So they act both on the heart as well as your peripheral vascular smooth muscle system, and thus both your blood pressure can be reduced. The parasympathetic outflow is reduced by your ganglionic blocker. So even they prevent the parasympathetic outflow by the ganglionic blockers. They also inhibit the release of your parasympathetic. Okay. So the examples are guanethidine. So they are nothing. So guanethidine is an example of your guanine. So if it contains a guanine ring, which is connected to a aziridine model, that is your, if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is an 8-membered nitrogen containing heterocycle, saturated heterocycle. If you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So whenever you draw a structure, just draw a nitrogen. Just draw a nitrogen and draw 8-membered saturated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Draw an 8-membered heterocyclic ring. Just draw an 8-membered heterocyclic ring, which is connected by a ethylene group, which is connected by an, this is CH2 group to an guanidine linkage. So it is connected to a guanidine. So this is nothing but your guanethidine. This is nothing but your guanethidine. And in case of hexamethonium ion, you have a quaternary ammonium, trimethyl amine, which is forms a quaternary ammonium salt by. So you got an quaternary trimethyl group, amino group, which is separated by each other by 6. That is a hexane group, and you got a hexamethonium. So this is the structure of your guanethidine. This is the structure of guanethidine and your hexamethonium. So these are the examples of your ganglionic blockers. They inhibit your nicotinic receptor, which are present in your autonomous nervous system, and thus prevent the release of your neurotransmitters like your epinephrine and norepinephrine, and thus reduce your cardiac heart rate, as well as your increases your peripheral decreases your peripheral resistance. This is how the ganglionic blockers act. So the last drug is your reserpine. Last drug is your reserpine. So it is obtained from Rauwolfia serpentina. So this reserpine, they block your magnesium ATP dependent transport of your amines. So they prevent the transport of your noradrenaline, dopamine and serotonin from your cytoplasm to your storage vesicle. So if you see, if you studied your autonomous nervous system, so these neurons go back, this neurotransmitter go back and into the cytoplasm, and then they get stored into your storage vesicle. So this particular reserpine blocks your transport of your neurotransmitters into your storage vesicle. So this leads to your depletion of your noradrenaline. So this monoamino oxidase enzyme is present in your cytoplasm, and this will destroy your noradrenaline and reduces the level of your noradrenaline in your adrenergic neuron. Okay, and this reduces the sympathetic function of your noradrenaline, and this due to the decreased release of your noradrenaline. Okay, due to the decreased release of your non-adrenaline, there will be a decrease in blood pressure due to decrease in cardiac output and decreased peripheral resistance Okay, this is how your reserpine acts. Now let us see the structure of your reserpine. So first of all, it is an fused indole moiety. It's a fused indole moiety. So first of all, you have to see is the structure. What you have to see whenever you're drawing the structure, you have to start with your indole moiety. Okay. First we have to draw is your indole. So just draw an indole moiety. Okay. First draw the indole. Now this indole, just look at the structure with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a methoxy at the center. Okay. This is the first thing that you have to see. Now this is connected. This is fused with an piperate. Okay, which is fused to a piperate. Okay, saturated pyridine, that is piperate. This is further fused to an bicyclic saturated. Okay, with at the 1, 2, 3 third position, which is connected by an ester linkage to a trimethoxyphenyl group, that is 3,4,5 trimethoxyphenyl group, and which contains an methoxy and an methyl ester. So this is the structure of your reserpine. This is the structure of your reserpine. So if you see how many methoxy groups are, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 methoxy. First thing is your indole, which is connected to your piperidine, which is then fused to another 2 bicyclic saturated ring. That is your naphthalene. Okay, saturated naphthalene, and which contains a methoxy and an carboxylic ester, which is connected to an ester moiety to an trimethoxyphenyl group. So this is your structure of your reserpine. This is the structure of your reserpine. Okay, so that completes your topic